Welcome back to the channel. I'm Colin and today's video will be on the Kiwi Ears Serene. It's a collaboration between Zeus from Z Reviews and Kiwi Ears. The Kiwi Ears Serene is a portable closed-back planar magnetic driver headphone. You can check out the specs are listed on the screen. I'm not exactly sure how much these will go for at the moment, as they are not out yet at the time of recording this video, but I believe they go for around $160. The packaging of the Serene is pretty simple. There's graphics and text to introduce you to the product and the collaboration. Inside the box, there's the headphones themselves. Underneath, we have the cable and some documentation. That's all. Seeing and touching the headphones for the first time, I was surprised how light and small they are. The cups are made from a polymer material and have a purple decorative piece on the outside. The pads are made from memory foam and protein leather. It's super thick and provides great isolation. The cups do swivel and lay flat. And the headband has a sliding size adjustment mechanism with no clicks. Let's take the pads off and we'll see the planar magnetic drivers. The driver layout looks really similar to the Fostex planar drivers. The pads themselves have a very thick padding here, which should have something to do with the overall tuning of the Serene. It can also help avoid any discomfort from your ears touching the driver baffle if you have big ears. The yoke of the headband are made from aluminum. The headband is made of spring steel, with protein leather on both sides. On top, there's the Kiwi Ears logo and Z Reviews logo. On the bottom, we can see the headband padding. Then it's the cable. The cable actually looks and feels rather premium for the price. It's terminated with a mini jack. The bottom part is a twisted quad conductor construction. Each of the conductors have a cable jacket on it. The splitter seems to be aluminum and has the Z Reviews logo printed on it. The headphone side is terminated with standard dual mini plugs. Comfort is very good on these. They are super light and the cups are large enough to surround my ears. But there's a weird sensation of driver flex with the Serene when you move the cups when they are on. It's apparent when you push or pull on the cups. You will hear the driver slightly crackling and feel some light air pressure in your ears. Similar with driver flex in IEMs. However, it doesn't happen with normal head movement, but the driver flex can occur when you are walking. I think this is a combination of effects of the restricted airflow to the drivers and good sealing pads. First, the Serene has very good noise isolation. The passive isolation is as good as some IEMs. The other effect of the restricted airflow to the drivers is that it creates really substantial bass. This brings us to the sound quality. If you heard or read about other Z Reviews collaborations, you know that Zeus is not shy to add bass to headphone collaboration he tunes. And it's no different for the Serene. The Serene has a bass-focused sound signature to it. I wouldn't call it a V-shaped sound, as it only sounds like the bass is boosted and the treble sounds pretty tamed or even a little dark in contrast. So basically, the Serene is a pretty flat headphone with a significant mid-bass boost. Let's talk about the bass first. The bass is definitely what stands out most and what you'll immediately notice when you first listen to it. There's a significant bass boost around the mid-bass, where the kick drums are, around 150 to 200 Hz. This is the region where it gives you the kick and the boost in the music. But it's also a double-edged sword, as this is also the frequency that will cause boominess and muddiness in the bass when there's too much. On the Serene, most of the time on modern pop or rock songs, I really enjoy the impact of the mid-bass. However, it sometimes can sound slightly muddy. On older 80s pop songs like Led Zeppelin and the Eagles, I think the boost in the mid-bass sounds just right, as a lot of older recordings at that period often sound slightly flatter. Sub-bass though is pretty linear and doesn't get the boost of the mid-bass. so clarity and texture is well maintained. It feels accurate and resolving. The planar drivers are very good in reproducing the sub-bass in an accurate and clean way. The mids of the Serene sound slightly dark and a little pushed back. It's the result of having the mid-bass boost. However, the mid-range still sounds very resolving despite sounding a little dark. It's still very capable of presenting the airiness in vocals and instruments, and although it sounds slightly pushed back in general, you can hear the instruments and vocal placement in the recording very well. Some tracks sound further and some closer. The Serene is able to present the depth very well. The cleanliness and the fast transient speed of the planar driver is still very apparent in the mid-range. There is very good separation between the mid-bass and the mids. The ability to present the decay and hear in between the notes in a planar driver is there in the Serene. The treble sounds very neutral to my ears. It doesn't sound dark like the mid-range, and it isn't bright either. It doesn't sound boosted. It is a neutral amount of treble and a neutral tonality to the treble. It's just the right amount to compensate for the mid-bass boost, and to boost the overall clarity of the Serene. Once again, it's really precise and quick as you would expect from a planar driver. The Soundstage is really impressive for a closed-back headphone. It sounds wide and open. It doesn't have that muffled and confined feeling that some closed-back headphones have. In fact, it sounds just as wide and open as the Ananda Stealth I reviewed last week. I'm not sure how this can be achieved with ear cups that are so small. Kiwi Ears website states that there's a refractory filter inside the cups and can cut out reflective sounds. Maybe that's the reason why the Serene has that openness in the Soundstage, despite being a closed back. The imaging is very precise on the Serene. It also has very good depth presentation. That said, I think these would make a great gaming headphone for competitive gaming, having great imaging and passive isolation. When I first unboxed the Serene, they immediately reminded me of my Sennheiser HD25s. The HD25s are actually one of my favorite headphones. They are punchy, non-fatiguing, lightweight, and they can just survive everything you throw at them. Comparing them side by side, the most obvious difference for me was the separation. Though both of them have a mid-bass boost, the Serene was able to maintain a much cleaner mid-range and has overall better separation. With the HD25 on the other hand, the mid-bass bleeds slightly into the mid-range, making everything sound warmer and slightly muddier. In terms of sound quality and resolution, though there are similarities in the sound signature, I think the Serene is definitely better than the HD25 when we talk about resolution and clarity. The soundstage is also wider on the Serene, as the HD25 has a pretty narrow soundstage by nature. Then I compare the Serene with the Ananda Stealth. The first thing that I noticed is the volume. Using the single-ended output of my DX260, the Serene needed about 60 out of 80 steps to achieve a similar loudness as the Ananda at 50 out of 80 steps, so the Serene is quite a bit harder to drive. Sound quality-wise, one is open and one is closed, so they are different by nature. On the Serene, vocals sound warmer throughout the frequency range, while the Ananda sounds airier and brighter. Bass guitars and drums have much more of an authority on the Serene, while the Ananda is better in reproducing the details and the diminishing sounds of an instrument. Soundstage is wider on the Ananda, but I feel like the Serene has a better depth presentation. It's more apparent than the Ananda. There are a few cons for the Serene, and some things I wish were better. First, the Serene is really hard to drive and to drive well, and something like the Apple dongle definitely wouldn't have enough juice to drive them. I tried it on my MacBook Pro headphone jack and it was barely loud enough at like 80% volume. The Serene has an impedance of 50 ohms, with a relatively low sensitivity of 102 decibels. You would definitely want a dedicated headphone amplifier for the Serene. Powering the Serenes with an underpowered amp, the mid-range will sound really recessed and pushed back, and you don't get the same separation between the bass and the mid-range. The overall sound becomes a little muffled and congested. Second, the driver flex issue can be a deal breaker for some. It's uncommon for headphones to have driver flex. it might cause some discomfort for some, and it can especially be a problem for people who plan to use the Serene on the go, as the driver crackling sound can be triggered by vibrations from walking or bumps on the road while in the car. Last, I really hope the Serene came with a pouch or a box and a modular plug that allows you to switch to a balance plug. Thanks to the passive isolation and form factor, the Serene will make a good portable headphone, so a travel pouch would be nice. For the balance plug, it would be really beneficial as most modern devices nowadays output more power when connected to balance headphones. So having a balance plug would definitely be beneficial with the Serene being so power hungry. In summary, I think the Kiwi Ears Serene is a quite unconventional headphone. It doesn't play safe, so I think these will divide opinions. I hope I can point out all the nuances or cons of the Serene for you in this review, so you can get a better idea if the Serene is for you or not. In terms of sound quality, I think the Serene is a very good headphone for the price, and the sound quality is also really good for a closed back headphone. It's really responsive and detailed, with a satisfying punchy sound. So if you are looking for a relatively flat headphone with a significant bass boost, I think you'll like the Serene. But do consider the cons and see if any of them are deal breakers to you. With the impressive passive isolation and compact form factor, I can picture these being a great headphone for the office, for gaming, and even for use on the go. So this is the end of the review. Please let me know if you have any questions about the Serene. I've linked the featured products in the description below. If you enjoyed this review, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you for watching.